10 kings and the beast of the sea rises out of the nations, kingdoms, tribes, and languages. Rev 17. They have not received their power yet, and they will hate the prostitute and burn her with fire. That happens in the first seals when these kings and kingdoms come as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in a confederacy under the Antichrist, or the first horseman of the apocalypse. The double-horned beast from the earth rises after and rules on the first beast's behalf after the Holy Land is conquered. The beast is replaced by the beast from the earth who forces every tribe and nation to worship the first beast. The first horseman is the Antichrist. He is overshadowed by the beast from the earth. The false prophet rules on behalf of the Antichrist with his religious system. The first horn is the Antichrist in Jerusalem after the beast conquers it. Before the Antichrist conquers, sets up his domain, he calls an ecumenical council, and the Catholic and Orthodox apostatize and turn into the beast from the earth, with the false prophet ruling in their place. The head of the ecumenical patriarch and the pope are replaced with a new false prophet and formation, which looks like a lamb and speaks like the dragon. That's how one horn replaces or overshadows 3 of the 10 from the beast from the sea. The false prophet and his church and Antichrist's secular empire rule together like the emperor and Holy Roman Empire used to rule together. The false prophet sets up an image of the empire and forces everyone to get the mark of that empire in order to trade goods, and kills anyone who doesn't worship the image. The image is an interactive AI robot that represents the kingdom like a living encyclopedia or like a virtual AI expression of the empire, which is connected to all areas of life. The mark is the Hebrew word for life. Counting the number of the beast is 666. If you count the number in isopsephy or Greek geometria, you count the first letter, or in this case number, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. 18, or lekim, the word life. The same mark as the man Cain was given after he murdered Abel. The beast system is a worldwide fascist dystopia, and all are forced to worship. Inside the conquered capital and conquered lands are the 2 witnesses who do plagues on the beasts as the trumpets are blown to coincide with their punishments, one of which is blood into water, as Rev 11 and 8 describe as a plague from the 2 witnesses, and also the second trumpet. During this time, the Mahdi and other strongholds are fighting outside conquered domains or in lands of resistance to coincide with the 2 witnesses and their revolution against the world empire or beasts who refuse or rebel against the mark with the seal of God. Anyone who doesn't take the mark is saved at that point, at least until the second advent. Anyone who dies a martyr is forever saved at that time and come back to rule with Christ in resurrected bodies as the first resurrection in Revelation 20. As the trumpets and plagues continue on the beasts and their empire, the fire that comes out of their mouths is coming from the weapons established by the empire, which plays the umpire on who is qualified to be divine. The 2 witnesses prove according to the wisdom of the beast's empire that the beast is not qualified as divine. The beast system is intended to last past the lifespan of its first ruler. They use the Babylonian reincarnation of king like Tammuz to transfer the title. In that time the king died, expanding his empire, and the wisdom of the city fostered his reincarnated soul in one of the citizens until it was time for him to rule. Until then the queen or the city would rule, which is the AI system or image of the beast. The false prophet glorifies the beast system and the Antichrist. The AI statue is a modern version of the statue of Marduk. The 2 witnesses challenge his rule and prove with divine signs from heaven and correct theology and eschatology of the fallen angels the history of the world. So no one is allowed to touch them because they are adding to the empire when they preach, especially about the fallen angels. And the Antichrist and false prophet are not destroyed either until after the death and resurrection of the 2 witnesses. They have permission to challenge and cause plagues on the beast from heaven without being touched by the weapons systems in the same the Mahdi and other faiths and countries resist outside of conquered lands by proving their strength, luck, and fortune. One of their plagues, the 5th trumpet, releases the 8th head on the 7-headed beast, Apollyon, the fallen angels mentioned in Jude and 2 Peter. He ascends out of the bottomless pit where Raphael was told to lock him in Enoch 10. The bottomless pit, or the abyss, and hell, or Hades, is unlocked before the fallen angel is unlocked when wormwood crashes into the earth, mixed with the H20, and opens a type of wormhole that weaves in and around the entire galaxy. As the plagues and trumpets increase, the AI statue of the beast grid decreases because of the unnatural and new data being provided as a sign of divinity. When the angels come up at the fifth trumpet, no one can die because hell comes up with it for 5 months. At the sixth trumpet, the rest of the angels are released from Gen 6 and Enoch 8 to 10, and they with their leader Apollyon kill the 2 witnesses to the surprise of the fallen world. There is a hole that comes out of heaven 3 days later, and then the environment changes and heaven is reflected in the temple as Revelation 15c. The Mahdi and the rest of the resistance follow the 2 witnesses to Jerusalem in a divine type of nightly pilgrimage, the equivalent of the mid-tribulation rapture. Then the bowls of wrath are poured out on the beast and the false prophet. The Euphrates is dried up and the nations are gathered to fight against the temple that's now occupied by angels moving in and out with golden sashes. No one is allowed in until after the bowls of wrath, as Revelation 15 describes the temple reflection, the one in heaven like is Isaiah. The nations are brought to Armageddon, and then the second coming happens, as in Revelation 19. The armies stretch to Damascus, and Christ kills them with the resistance, and the saints in heaven and his army from there. The nations that resisted the mark become the kings or princes of the second advent under Jesus, the King of Kings. The beast and false prophet are thrown in the lake of fire, and people are extended to live as long as the patriarchs, as in Isaiah 65 verse 20. The change in environment is another case of punctuated equilibrium evolutionary theory from the wormhole, which is like our galaxy cluster traveling through a black hole and out a white hole, as it did in the flood to change the lifespans of the patriarchs to the shorter ones we have now. After 2 generations, the nations rebel again and surround the city and attack it. The resurrected martyrs and Jesus stand on the Mount of Olives, and a big earthquake happens, and the city splits so much that the people not in resurrected form and alive escape through fault lines that appear. They are destroyed by Jesus in a supernatural way and lay slaughtered for 7 years. In the valley of Jehoshaphat, as in Joel 3 and Ezekiel 39. The survivors are forced to pay tribute and repent. At the end of the 7 years, the rest of heaven descends as New Jerusalem, as another case of punctuated equilibrium evolutionary theory, and through a wormhole back to immortality. Hades and death are all thrown in the center of hell, the lake of fire, where the beast and false prophet are, and the devil that inspired the rebellion. Everyone is judged and either gets thrown in the lake of fire or restored like the martyrs into resurrected bodies. New Jerusalem is finished along with humanity, and the new nations or tribes are species that are new creations that are guided by the light of the city, where they can either live by it or be thrown in the lake of fire. End of Book 3. 10 Kings and the Beast of the Sea rises